Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really diving into the Shaun Diddy Combs trial, specifically the closing arguments, which just wrapped up.
It's been a huge amount of information, hasn't it?
Absolutely. So our mission today for you is to try and sift through all of that, get to the core arguments each side presented.
Yeah, because these narratives the jury heard, they were polar opposites.
It's been under such an intense spotlight.
Right. And this trial, it's been going since, May 12th? The charges are incredibly serious: racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking.
Huge stakes.
Massive. Potential life in prison if he's convicted. So, these closing arguments, they're the final pitch. They distill weeks and weeks of testimony.
Everything boiled down.
Exactly. Understanding them is really key to grasping the heart of this whole very complex case.
Okay, so if you've been trying to keep up, you know it's been a complicated legal fight. Let's unpack the key pieces from both sides, prosecution and defense.
Highlighting the main points, maybe some surprises too.
Let's get into it. So the prosecution went first. They presenting a long case. 34 witnesses, 7 weeks. People like Cassie Ventura Fine, Kid Cudi.
A lot of testimony.
So how do they start to, weave that all together for the jury in their closing?
Well, Assistant U.S. Attorney Christy Slavic kicked it off. Her argument was basically that Combs used, and these were her words, power, violence, and fear.
Power, violence, and fear.
Yeah, to run what she called a criminal enterprise. She argued he facilitated brutal sex crimes,
Okay.
and that he relied on silence and shame for it to continue. Even mentioned a small army of employees helping him harm women and cover things up.
Wow.
And her big framing point was that Combs thought that his fame, wealth, and power put him above the law.
The classic above the law argument.
Exactly. It frames it not just as crimes, but as a challenge to the whole idea that everyone's equal, trying to connect with the jury's sense of fairness.
Right. And after Slavic set that stage, Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey came in with a rebuttal. Sounded like she was pretty direct.
Oh, incredibly direct. Her core message was stark. Make no mistake, this trial was about how in Shaun Combs' world, no was never an option.
Powerful phrasing.
Very. And she added another crucial line. Being a domestic abuser is not a defense to sex trafficking.
Okay, so drawing a clear line there.
Precisely. It stops the defense from potentially trying to muddy the waters, saying, oh, it was just domestic issues, when the charge is specifically sex trafficking. It forces the jury to look squarely at that specific charge.
That's a very clear, forceful message from the prosecution side. Okay, let's completely switch gears now. The defense. A huge contrast, apparently. Mark Agnifilo, 4 hours, animated delivery.
Oh, absolutely a contrast. Agnifilo's whole argument started from the idea that Combs is, quote, the victim of an overzealous prosecution.
Victim, okay.
Yeah, he called the whole thing a fake trial. He actually scoffed at the racketeering charge, asked the jury, are you kidding me? Did any witness get on that witness stand and say, yes, I was part of a racketeering enterprise?
So it's a flat-out ridicule of the core charge.
Exactly. Not just denying it, but attacking the very legitimacy of the prosecution's foundation right from the start.
And it sounds like they weren't shy about dismissing evidence either, like the seized items, his lifestyle stuff.
Not at all. Agnifilo argued prosecutors badly exaggerated the whole swinger lifestyle and threesomes angle. Said they tried to turn the recreational use of drugs and a swinger lifestyle into a racketeering conspiracy. He even mocked the agents seizing things like lubricant and baby oil.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently said something like, way to go, fellas. Sort of derisively.
That chuckle. Okay, so trying to make the prosecution look foolish, almost.
Definitely trying to paint a picture of overreach, suggesting they're just grabbing at anything, even personal stuff, because they didn't have a real case.
That's quite a strategy. But beyond attacking the prosecution's methods, how did Agnifilo handle the actual charges? Racketeering, sex trafficking, was it just a straight denial?
It was a very direct, absolute denial. He stated he did not do the things he's charged with. He didn't do racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking, period.
Unequivocal.
And then he appealed directly to the jury's emotions, He sits there innocent. Return him to his family who have been waiting for him. Standard defense tactic, but powerful, clear denial plus that humanizing appeal.
Right. But they didn't stop at just denying, did they? There was this really bold claim about the actual crime scene.
Yeah, that was quite something. Agnifilo really tried to flip the script there. He told the jurors the prosecutors had invaded Combs' most intimate personal affairs, and then he asked, where's the crime scene? It's your sex life.
Wow. So framing the evidence gathering as the crime, almost.
Exactly. It shifts the focus from, did he commit these crimes, to, did the government overstep by digging into his private life? It's designed to make jurors potentially uncomfortable, maybe sympathetic to the idea of privacy invasion.
Audacious.
Yeah.
And they also offered a very specific motive for why these women were making accusations.
Yeah. Absolutely. Money. Agnifilo was blunt. The accusations were about draining him of his wealth through lawsuits.
Right.
He said, this isn't about crime, it's about money. This is about money.
So paint the accusers as financially motivated.
Right. Undermine their credibility, try to reframe the whole thing as a cash grab, not a criminal matter. It's a common defense, trying to sow doubt about why someone will come forward.
Makes sense. But interestingly, the defense did acknowledge some violence, didn't they? But they tried to frame it very differently.
Yes, that was a key part of their strategy. Agnifilo said the defense owns the fact that Combs was violent sometimes.
Okay, conceding that point.
But then argued that behavior, however bad, doesn't meet the high legal bar for racketeering or sex trafficking. He described their relationship with Cassie Ventura Fine as loving, beautiful, but also complicated.
Complicated, right?
He even said if racketeering conspiracy had an opposite, it would be their relationship. Added they were deeply in love.
Huh. So, acknowledge the bad parts to seem credible, but argue it wasn't criminal in the way you were charged, and tried to reframe the core relationship.
Exactly. A strategic concession, basically. Yes, there were problems, but not these problems.
And then Combs himself didn't testify, and the defense case was very short.
Very short. Combs confirmed it was his decision, working with his lawyers. The defense rested in under 30 minutes, called zero witnesses.
No witnesses at all.
Nope. They apparently felt they'd done enough damage during the cross-examinations of the government's witnesses.
Interesting.
And remember, some of those government witnesses were there under subpoena, reportedly reluctant. So the defense maybe felt they'd already poked enough holes or raised enough doubt through questioning the prosecution's own evidence.
Right, betting on the cross-examination being enough.
Yeah.
And just a side note, his family was there for the defense closing. 6 kids, his mother.
Yeah, a visible show of support in the courtroom audience.
Okay, so summing up, we have these two completely clashing stories presented to the jury.
Totally. On one side, the prosecution. A calculated criminal enterprise built on power, violence, control.
And on the other,
The defense. An overzealous prosecution blowing a messy personal life way out of proportion, maybe for financial reasons by the accusers, creating this fake trial.
it's just starkly different realities.
And the juror's job now is enormous. They have to weigh these completely opposing accounts and decide which one holds up.
Yeah.
It's not just about the facts, but how those facts were spun, how they were framed.
And deliberations start Monday. It's going to be a huge outcome either way. You know, as you think about this, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much does all the public attention, the sheer noise around a high-profile case like this, affect how we all perceive the evidence, even before verdict?
That's a great point. Public perception versus courtroom reality.
Yeah, and how easily can facts be interpreted in totally different ways when you see two sides present them so forcefully, so oppositely? It's something to definitely think about as we wait for the jury.